Good morning and welcome to an unexpected wrong day extra edition of day 4 on a Friday with the man Frank SCALISH. I wish I wasn't talking to you, Frank.
I wish you weren't talking to me either, Matt.
Listen, 183. I wanted to get a show in. I didn't want to get a show in this week, but we didn't record before I had the Bass Nation Championship on Grand. Ended up missing the top 20 cut by 14 ounces. I finished 24th in that event. Top 3 go to the Classic, but the top 20 is fishing right now. So I came home and said, well, a better way to get over my massive first world problems to do a day 4 with the man Frank SCALISH. And then what it really was the catalyst to this was I saw you on Instagram holding some absolute slobs, Frank.
Yeah, it was I'm going to be honest. I salvaged the day because it didn't start like that.
Yeah. Hold on a second. This is live. The top 20 fished on Friday. It is Friday, November 8th at 8:32 a.m. Central Time. It's a bonus show. Like I said, it might turn into a therapy session. But okay, back to it, because people were saying, no, he's still fishing. No, I'm not fishing. I missed the cut by 13 ounces because I weighed in a 5 bass limit that weighed 8 pounds 1 ounce yesterday and culled 4 times. Okay, continue, Frank, with the story of the slobs.
You sure you don't want to finish yours first?
No. I need to hear some positivity. Some positivity in the bass fishing world. While you do that, I'm gonna pull up this post that you made. So dive into it, Frank, and then we'll get into my fishing problems.
SCALISH_fishing for those who want to view it. So I went out with the intention of not fishing for largemouth, but to try to find some smallmouth. And the weather forecast was 1,000% completely blown. Yeah, dude, that was fun. That was my last fish of the day. I actually went home after I caught that one.
Why isn't that focusing?
There it is. There it is. Yeah, there were some beauties. But anyway,
I'm just showing look at that. You caught so many, you got artistic with it.
Yeah, I figured, what the heck, why not?
So I just wanted to show what this story that I've now interrupted 3 times is about. It's about those fish. Okay.
It's all good. So I had gone out with the intent to target smallmouths, and I couldn't find them, or I couldn't get them to bite, but I couldn't find them, and I was losing my mind. So the weather was supposed to be 5 to 10 out of the northwest. Mm-hmm. And when I got to the lake in the morning, there were no boats in the parking lot. And when I looked out at the lake, I fully understood why. Because it was blowing 15 to 25. And it was a little rugged, to say the least. And so I launched the boat and started idling around, and found all these suspended shad, and I saw some fish underneath them, and they were freaking deep. Clearly,
like you could see the marks underneath the schools of shad.
Yeah, clearly the lake had flipped because there was oxygen from top to bottom, and some of these fish were in 30 plus, and so I started fishing on them, and I left my butt seat at home, and I started fishing on them, and I couldn't even hardly stand up on the front deck.
Did you have so you had nothing up front?
I had nothing up front, and so the way the wind was blowing, when I tried to get behind everything so I could work directly into the wind, but as shad chasers know, they're constantly moving. They're constantly doing this crap. And so as I'm scoping back and forth to relocate them, then the boat gets sideways in the wind, and then it starts doing this stuff. And then I make my cast, and I'm trying to focus with and it was a mess. So I said, you know what, screw this. I gotta get somewhere at least where I could fish. So I went into this one creek arm. I went up there, I got out of the wind, and it was a joke because there was like nothing there. Like I started scoping and there's like nothing there. And there's 30 plus feet of water in this one creek arm.
Nothing as far as bait, any of that.
Nothing. It was
just
vacant.
Black screen.
Yeah, vacant.
Okay.
And so I'm like, man, I'm just gonna have to go. I'm just gonna have to go and try to make this work. So I run out. I got a shallow rock pile with the grass edge on the outside edge of the rock pile. I go there. I start honking a jerk bait. Scoping is pretty much almost out of the question. I can barely stand up. So I'm scoping around. I'm throwing the jerk bait. I'm catching crappie on the jerk bait. So I know there's fish utilizing that edge, but I couldn't catch nothing. So I started making my progressions down the lake, and I said, you know what, screw this. I gotta go see if I can catch some largemouth. So I ran to a place where I have an idea that they'll winter there, because I'd never fished this lake I only fished the lake in the spring and summer.
Right.
So I had an idea where they would winter. I went in there, I started scoping around. I saw some bait, not a lot of bait, some bait. And so I said, well, I started cranking 12 to 14, and nothing was coming up out of the rocks or out of the grass to come and get the crankbait. And I'm like, God almighty, maybe I'm fishing too fast. So I put out a jig, a Texas rig, and a Ned rig, and I'm not catching anything. And I'm like, this is.
What time is it now? Like, how long have you been on the lake?
I've been on the lake probably 2.5 hours at this point.
Okay, so long enough to where you're like, now I know why the parking lot was empty.
Yeah, pretty much. So I said, well, let me get out my Flash Mob Junior. I get the Flash Mob Junior out. Actually, I rigged two of them, one all natural and one hot colors, just to see if one will trigger a bite or if one will get bites. You know what I mean? I didn't
mean hot colors on the baits or the blades?
The baits. Hot
Okay.
colors on the baits. And different size, different size minnows. So anyway, the long and short of it is I get a you know how when the wind's blowing real hard and then all of a sudden you get a lull in the wind?
Mm-hmm.
So I get this little lull in the wind, and I scope this ledge, and I fire the Flash Mob out there, and I'm watching it go down, and the cover on the bottom is anywhere from a foot to 4 feet high, and it's all up and down, because some of it's rock, some of it's isolated grass, and even some stumps. Okay, so I fire it out there, and I'm slow rolling this thing, and all of a sudden I'm like, holy crap, there's this freaking shark tracking it. And then all of a sudden, poof, and I get him. So I wind up catching a handful in this area, just working down this one ledge break. Okay. So the wind started to back down to about 10 to 15. So I said, I'm going back out looking for smallmouth. So I ran back out looking for smallmouth, killed about another hour and a half, 2 hours, not catching anything. And then I said, I got to go back to the ledges and try and catch largemouth. And then I caught them, and I was like, holy crap. So on the way in, I said, well, I'm going to make one more stop on the way in, because I don't think I fished the first spot where I started catching them very effectively. I went back in through there and just freaking caught them. And then the last fish I caught was that big giant one. And I said, well, good enough for me. I packed the crap up and went home.
Run through your Flash Mob setup. We're getting into Flash Mob Junior season. I know we've done some on it, but I don't think we have done a full setup as far as line, rod, reel that thing because I know everyone does it a little differently. I have like kind of just two dedicated setups. I have one on a fast speed and one on a 5.3-1 because I have a tendency to want to reel my flash mob way too fast. So I force myself to slow down to where I can still reel it. But I know a lot of guys throw it on a high speed. I can't do it. I have to throw it on a 5.3. Talk about what you use as a setup.
Yeah, that's a really good thing because I'm the same way. I can't throw it on a high speed. If I throw it on a high speed, that thing's 2 feet below the surface.
Which is sometimes what you want. Like on 10 killer with the smallies, when you're on the gravel, you want to be able to keep that thing, 2 to 4 foot down. But as soon as the water gets colder, it's amazing, especially with forward facing, how slow you can get that thing and get those fish to commit.
Right, exactly. So I started out throwing them on braid, and because when they first came out, that was like what everybody did. So I started throwing them on braid, and I caught fish on using braid. The question then became, what diameter braid am I going to throw? And braid, it's like, 50 pound, 60 pound, 30 pound, 40 pound, because braid's much thinner than, fluorocarbon or mono. And so then I became, what am I going to throw it on, and blah, blah, blah. And so I started experimenting with that. And then the rod thing became an issue because it's like, if I have too stiff of a rod, is it going to, with the braid and a stiffer action, is it going to hinder hookups? Is it going to help make me lose fit? You know what I mean? There's just a whole, so what I wound up doing was, the first thing I had to do is I had to get what my equipment was going to be. And so I went through one season where all I was experimenting with basically was rods. And so, okay, so it's no secret that I throw Powell's. Okay. So I have a 764 endurance, a 765 endurance, and a 775 endurance. The 64 is a medium, the 65 is a medium heavy, and the 775 is a medium heavy, but the 775 is a little heavier than the 765. So why is this important? Okay. If I'm rigging around grass, I want the little heavier action rod, because then I can snap it when I hit the grass. I could snap it and blow it through the grass, instead of, if it's too soft and you snap it, it just wraps around the grass. So that's why I do that. Plus, the 775 will cast it a little bit easier in the wind.
The 775 endurance mag medium heavy extra fast.
Yes, that's the exact rod.
Blue rod.
Oh,
it's it's only $150.
Yeah, you can't beat them for the price. I mean, in all honesty, this is not a Powell commercial, but it's, for the price point, it's probably one of the best fishing rods on the market. I've been fishing them forever. I don't even know how long. We'll give them a shout out.
There it is, right there.
Yeah,
7.7 mag medium heavy, 1225 fast action.
Yeah, and so I'm using that, the 765 and the 764. If I throw the 764, if I'm throwing lighter heads, if I'm throwing 16th ounce heads, I'll throw the 764, because you can launch it a mile. Very light. You have good control over the bait, and your hookups are almost 100% every time they eat it. You got them, because the tip's a little softer, so when they get it, they got it. You know what I mean? So the Flash Mob Junior specifically, the biggest thing that I found is that I have to, the thing that I monkey around with the most is color and size of whatever swim baits I'm throwing at it. Yesterday I was throwing the small pulse minnow on it. It moves like crazy. It's a real thin, small bait. They were keying in on the smaller size. Yeah, I think what is that, a 3.5? Yeah, it's the 3.5. Now it says it's 3.5 inches, but it's a skinny bait. It has a really great small bait fish profile to it, and it moves like mad. So that was the one that was getting most of the work. And when I say I'm throwing hot patterns, go back to the chartreuse one in blue. So if I say I'm throwing hot patterns, that's what I'm throwing. I'm throwing something with chartreuse in it, or all chartreuse. Those are when I say I got one with hot patterns and one with, regular bait fish patterns, because sometimes there'll be a trigger. And so that's really kind of it. And the simplistic way, it's very easy. It's a very easy lure to fish with, because especially with live scope, because you could see your lure down there. So you could keep it 2 feet above the bottom. You could keep it a foot above the bottom. You could keep it 6 feet above the bottom. It's really easy to fish it because you can see it. Now, in full disclosure, I did not see one bass scoping until they started to run the bait down. They would come up from behind a stump, or they would come up from behind a boulder, or a piece, or a clump of grass, and that's the only time I would see them. And so I did try to bottom bounce through that stuff with jigs and Texas rigs and Ned rigs. Although the Ned rig was really tough to fish because of the wind, but they wouldn't touch nothing. And that was dry, and that's what I didn't understand, because I knew they were plastered to the bottom, but I couldn't get them to react to anything. And so it was pretty experimental until I figured it out. And then I realized that I just going to have to be patient, and I'm not going to be able to make one cast and roll. I had to literally dissect the flats. I had to literally dissect the flats on the edge of the river channel, because I didn't know where the dang bass were at.
Yeah, the one thing that I've noticed, and I don't want to turn this into a FFS show, but the one thing that I have noticed, whether it's a big minnow, jerk bait that you get near the bottom in 8 to 10 foot of water, Flash Mob Junior, is how many big fish sit motionless on the bottom of the lake, largemouth. Like, I can't tell you how many times you see an abnormality, a stump, a rock, a hard spot, something, and literally the only plausible explanation is that those fish, they're not inactive because they come up and eat your stuff.
Right.
They have to be just completely resting, dead still, sitting on the bottom of the lake.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only place they could be. And then, I mean, boom, you're like, whoa, it just materializes out of nowhere. I'm assuming pre-live scope, that's why Carolina rig, football head, making sure that your crankbait is ticking the bottom was important, because that would get those fish to move and react. Is that kind of a fair assessment?
Yeah, I actually agree with that 1,000%. And the weird thing about it is like, as you develop your scoping skills, and I'm by no means like dialed in. I'm pretty good, but I'm not dialed in. I noticed that if you get your machines dialed in, no matter whose machine you're using, if you get it dialed in, if there's a lot of fish in an area on the bottom, you will see the bottom looks like it's moving a little bit. You can see
look a little fuzzy.
Yeah,
but it's very easy to look to pass over it, and the only way is you got to get some down there and get them to move or get them to react.
Right, 100%.
Have you messed? Okay, so we talk about that. Any specific heads? Are you pouring your own jig heads on that? I know that's completely dependent on a number of different factors, but like,
no, the one thing I do, I use the Yum head a lot for it.
So there's two. There's one. The one that comes like in the kit that's painted white.
I like the black ones.
Yeah, that's more like a white bass style jig head. You know, the pack that cut like this.
It's real thin. It's a real thin head.
To me, if you're fishing for bass with those, you are asking for heartbreak.
Yeah, no, not those. If you go to the other heads they got,
Like
it's
that's more. For me, that's more like a white bass setup.
yeah, 100% white bass and crappie actually.
Yeah, white bass and crappie. This is actually out of stock, the Scottsboro kit, but you're talking about that.
Okay, yeah, the jig heads. Yes,
Yeah.
I use those ones, and then they have a black head that's like an aspirin head. It's still it's triangular in shape like that one, but it's more like an aspirin head.
Okay. I don't.
I use those too, and here's the reason why: because they offer it in different hook styles, in different hook gaps, and I found that on the Scottsboro style, it's a shorter shanked hook, which I absolutely love because I can get the gap with a short shanked hook, and the shorter the shank, the more action your soft plastic has.
Yeah.
If you put it too long of a soft plastic in, you're killing the key motion on the soft plastic. You'll get the tail pump, but you won't get the sashaying.
Now have you messed around with, and like I said, I know we've done A rigs, but I feel like there's been a lot of innovation in A rigs since the last time we did talked about it. Have you messed around with the Colorado blade yet?
No, I haven't, and I'll tell you why. I have a tendency, if the water was murky and off color, I would not hesitate to throw the Colorado style one, especially in some of the shallower, dirty bodies of water. The Colorados kick and thump harder. My problem with it is I always have a tendency when I'm throwing the flash mob is I over crank them. And I have to slow myself down. Like one of the reels that I was using yesterday, I actually bought super low speed gears and swapped the gears out and made the reel even slower because I start to get excited and I start to crank it. And here yesterday, I found out something really crazy. I lost the bait. The wind was pushing me around and I lost the bait for a second. And I was still reeling it in, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I know I'm doing it. I know it. I'm slow. I'm there." And I got on the bait real quick after that. I found it again, and I was 5 feet higher in the water column than I thought I was. And so that was like a holy crap moment because I'm like, "Oh my God, I thought I was barely moving it," and here I am. I'm 5 feet higher than I needed it to be. So the low speed for me is everything. The Colorado, if I was fishing, we have a lake here. It's a real shallow lake and it's off color most of the time. Would the Colorado one would be ideal for that because you're going to be seldomly fishing it deeper than, 12 feet deep.
Yeah.
You're going to be in that, 4 to 8 foot zone almost all day. And that would be ideal for that.
Jeff, they're saying he doesn't get his rigs out till 55 or below water.
Yeah, but you forget
degree or below.
You forget where I live, Maestro. We're already there.
Yeah. Huh.
But you know what? I'm going to tell you something about a Flash Mob Junior. I hate to tell you guys, it's not just a cold water bait. It's absolutely not just a cold water bait.
Check your regulations too, as far as what you can and can't throw. 5 hooks, 3 hooks,
right,
1 hook, the whole 9 yards. There's a bunch of different regulations on different states, but I feel like that's really become, I feel like there used to be a little stigma around the umbrella rig, and now it's just another tool in the tackle box.
Right. So here's the only thing I do to my Flash Mob Juniors. I'm drawing this because, like you said, we got to draw shit. So the only thing I do on the Flash Mob Junior is I add a split ring and a crane swivel to it. That's the only.
And that just reduces line twist.
It just reduces line twist. And to be brutally honest with you, use a high quality crane swivel. Don't use a cheap one, because you'll get heartbroken when one of the rings pull out or something. Use high quality stuff for that.
Now, I used to be. I think the last show we did, I was diehard on the fluorocarbon.
I'm a fluorocarbon guy.
Okay. Now listen, I have completely changed my tune on that because even though fluorocarbon sinks and braid floats, the diameter of braid is smaller, so there's less drag in the water, so you can actually keep your bait deeper with braid.
Yes, 100%.
Also, when you half hitch the bait with braid, because there is no stretch, and because of the wire diameter of the Flash Mob Junior, which in my opinion is one of the reasons why it's one of the best umbrella rigs on the market, because it actually breathes. I mean, there's time for the hog farmers and things like with the double blades where you want to make sure that you're dealing with the beefiest of the beefiest. But when you half hitch that with braid, the bait breathes. Yes, it does that. And from looking at it before, when you half hitch it, especially when you're a long way out with fluorocarbon, there's a lot of stretch in fluorocarbon.
Yeah, more.
Even though there's less
braid.
stretch than mono, it and I think if you're gonna have fish that are freaking eating something that looks like a guitar strings mixed with a hanger, and the braid ain't gonna hurt you.
No, the braid doesn't hurt you.
But there are times when the fluoro will outfish the braid, and I haven't figured out when that is.
Yeah, I have not either. And to be honest with you, I have 2 braid rods in the boat that I left in the boat because I don't want to be caught with my pants down, so to speak.
And it's way easier if you're around wood or timber, and especially if you're not in a major tournament setting. If you have that thing tied on braid and you have the right jig head, you can open up that jig head and pull the bait off of cables, timber, whatever it is, as long as the head isn't wedged. And then you literally have to replace 1 or 2 jig heads instead of losing the entire thing.
That is correct. I get nervous with the super thin wire on it, to be honest with you. But it doesn't matter. I mean, you still will land your fish because the action of your fishing rod's going to absorb most of the shock, so you're still going to land the fish.
Yeah.
Water temps are overrated.
You're officially in A-rig and jerkbait and minnow season in Ohio there, Frank.
Well, we're still doing everything. We're still catching them on square bills, shallow. This is the time of year where you could, I don't want to say you could find any way you want to catch them. But the fish are from the bank all the way out to the ledges already. There's a whole lot of in between. So, you could still go out with a chatterbait and a square bill and catch them.
Now, are you past topwater season officially, or can you still find it right? Can you still go catch them on a buzzer and a Zara spook?
I'm going to say we're marginally not past it yet, but it's marginal.
Okay. That's a 55 degree, 50 degree. What's the?
I throw it till they stop eating it. The coldest I've caught them on top waters is 45, but that was just an isolated incident because the weather had warmed up. All the conditions worked out for it. I know one guy who was catching them on buzzbaits in December on this one lake that he went to. So
not a power plant lake.
No, not a hot water discharge lake.
In Ohio.
Yeah, in Ohio.
So like upper 30s, low 40s.
Yeah, probably 39 degree water temperature. But here
what would even make them throw that?
I have no idea. But here again, bass will fool you.
I know that.
There's always an oddball, something or other that could put fish in your boat. But if you want to consistently be consistent, you have to fish the percentages. That's the name of the game when you're bass fishing, is fish the high percentage patterns, fish the high percentage stuff. That's what we teach on this show every Thursday and of course Friday today. But you know,
Uh-huh. Well, I just remembered last week, weren't you going steelhead fishing?
yeah, that fell through. The
Oh
guy
no.
the guy I was going with had some home repairs, and the
You sure
contractor
that guy wasn't you?
might have been. It might have been. No, I'm close, dude. I'm real close to getting everything buttoned up.
At the house, or
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna repair the ceiling this weekend.
I don't think you ever get everything buttoned up.
No, it's because once I get one project finished, something else happens and another one starts. You know what I mean?
Real quick, Cloud9 completely sold out in 4 hours again.
Yeah.
Do you want to tease what the December?
Yeah.
What is there, like one more and then they take a break, or two more and then we take a break, or?
No, we cut a dozen loose, so there's a few more.
Oh, I thought there was like a break before the next batch came out.
Well, there will be before the next signature series comes out. I'm working on another one, but it's probably 9 or 10 months out before it even shows up.
I got you.
But yeah, see, there's another case and example. But one thing I do want to touch on real quick before we get back into fishing. This Monday, the Bandit 100 and 200, they brought it back in the color khaki. When they stopped making the khaki, everybody went crazy. So they brought it back because of popular demand. So Monday on LureNet, in the Bandit 100 and 200, khaki is back, guys. So you'll want to check that out. Also, Black Friday sales start November 18th. You have to keep checking it out because we have tons of really good baits that are going to be super saley for only a couple days only. They're just
super saley, huh?
Yeah, I don't what the hell, whatever. Super saley periodically throughout, throughout the holiday season. So you're going to want to check it out. The best thing to do is sign up for the newsletter because you'll get the alerts, and so you'll know prior. So whatever you're and really good lures are going to be with really big sales off. Now the BTL 24 code will work on any non-sale item because a lot of the sale items are really, really marked down.
Why does khaki work? It's like a solid color. It's ugly. It literally is the color khaki.
It's the color khaki, but it's like, in my opinion, it's like a muted bone looking color. And I think it's just very visible to the fish.
Like it pops.
Yeah, like in almost any water condition, that color is very visible.
It's a big Texoma lake color.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but dude, I've caught them on khaki everywhere. Khaki to me is like lavender shad in the Norman lineup. You just catch them on lavender shad.
Mm-hmm. So that color is like, it's not that color there. It is now in the production line of like colors, like for here on out, like you'll be able to order khaki.
That I'm not 100% sure. I don't believe it is, but they put another run through. It should be in the line. It used to be in the line. But maybe because of the demand for it, maybe it'll go back in the catalog, which would be a good thing. I think it'll be a good thing. You know what, since we're talking about colors, and then we'll get into, because I want to get into your event, because it was kind of very important. So I want to get into that. So I'm going to tease two of the next signature series colors coming out. One of them I call Tiger Shad, and I wanted to do something a little.
Well, can you do this? Can you show this?
I am.
This is the next signature series?
Yeah, I don't know if I can show it or not, but I'm showing
it.
Dude,
that's freaking badass.
Isn't that cool?
That is really badass.
Yeah.
Are you going to get a call over this? Because this is still a month out, Frank.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's way out. I don't know, but if I get a call, we're going live.
Okay.
So that's one that's
Is that
coming
next
out.
month's or just one in the future?
I think it might be.
You're going rogue, Frank.
Yeah, I'm going off the chart. It might be next.
Talk the color through though. I've
Okay,
never seen anything like that. That's actually like a interesting. It's like it feels kind of like 1980s retro, like crazy pants, parachute pants. Like I don't know why that color to me says like 1989.
Yeah, can't touch this. Anyhow. Anyhow,
how old were you in 1989, Frank?
I don't know how old I was.
How old were you 35 years ago?
35 years ago, I was in my 20s.
Dude, that was like you're in your prime still, but that was like, did you wear those colors like the?
No, I never. No, I spent most of my life in jeans, a button down, and a blazer, or jeans, flannel shirts, and cowboy boots. But I will admit, I did have a fly suit, the pilot suits, the one zip pilot suit. I did have one of those that I wore out a couple times and then retired it because I'm like, this is not me, and so I'm not.
So they had a deal where like it wasn't for pilots. It was like what you would wear out. It was like a trendy.
Yeah, it was real trendy. It was a one piece. It looked like, it had a couple of patches on the sleeves torn. I thought it was the coolest thing until I wore it out a couple times, and I'm like, no, I'm going back to jeans and cowboy boots. I can't handle this crap. And so I spend most of my, that's what I wore: jeans, cowboy boots, or jeans and work boots, and flannel shirts.
Was it called a fly suit, or what was it? It was a one piece?
Yeah, it was one piece.
So like if you had to take a leak, you had to like take off the whole thing?
No, you just unzip the thing.
Oh, I'm trying to figure out. I gotta find a picture of this stuff.
Yeah, you will. And the next color after that, and now I'm probably in uncharted territory. I believe it's going to be St. Clair red.
Oh,
crawfish color. And I'll be honest with you, there's three of them. There's St. Clair red, St. Clair orange, and St. Clair chartreuse. And there is an actual crayfish in St. Clair, but it's up north. But it's in St. Clair, specifically, that are exactly those colors, and they change. They'll change from like, green pumpkiny brown and orange to green pumpkiny brown and red, and then when they molt and become soft-shelled craws, they become
similar to this?
No, that is very flamboyant. Mine was just straight olive drab. There was no color in it. It was just olive drab.
What is it called? It's called a jumpsuit. 1980s jumpsuit.
Oh my gosh. Disco ball. But yeah, so anyhow, so I have a whole series
like that?
No, it wasn't shiny. It was like olive drab, like you would
wear
like you would wear in the army. That is not olive drab, dude. That is like metallic. I can't even say what I'm gonna say.
That's got to be the exact one, doesn't it?
Oh my God. I wouldn't be caught dead in that on any given day, no matter how much alcohol was applied. That would never be wrapped around these shoulders.
I think I'm getting a visual of it. It was basically kind of what they would have worn in like the original.
It's like a flight suit.
Yeah.
No collar. Couple patches over here, half torn off.
Okay.
A pocket.
I found it.
No, you did not.
Yes,
you got
I did.
You got some other.
No, I didn't. That right there.
Yeah, that's
similar to that.
That's pretty without the collar. That's pretty much it.
There you go.
There you go. And so I did. I had one of those, and I said, nope, this ain't never happening again. So it went bye-bye. was a grotesque waste of money.
But show that color again.
Which one? Tiger Shad or St. Clair?
Tiger Shad. Okay. So like,
so in full disclosure,
I look up 1980s tracksuit. This is the first thing that pops up. Look at that color compared to that. It's the same color.
There you go. Maybe I should have called it a 1980s tracksuit.
Dude, I like that. I think that one's hot.
So there, I got this idea. There's a custom painter in the UK that paints pike baits, and he shredded the side of it. Okay, he painted it, and then he scraped all the paint off of it somehow. And I said, oh, that would be cool if I were to make a mask of it and paint the bait a color underneath, and then peel my mask off. And then I would have the color underneath after I paint the whole shad, then just peel my mask off, and then whatever's left behind the mask will be available. You know what I mean? So what I did was I painted it Fire Tiger, and then put my bars on, my tape bars and stuff on it, and then painted the whole bait shad pattern, and then peeled the tape off of it. And that's what was left behind it.
Phenomenal.
But there's other subtleties here, like my silver scales on the bottom. It's a transparent silver, so as the bait moves, the scales appear and disappear. I mean, there's some cool attributes to it. And then, of course, the pearls. I got pearls in there. You can see more around the eyeball, the pearls in it. So there's a lot of cool, little funky things going on to it. And then, of course, this was designed after an actual crayfish.
I like it. Remind me, we got to get the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame winner booked for the next.
Yeah, we got to do that
next month. Need to give him a shout.
We have to do that. Yeah.
Did you ever?
What did I call him? Joey Mac and Cheese. Joey Mac and Cheese.
Did you ever wear the turtlenecks, Frank, in the 80s and 90s? Like, were you a turtleneck guy? I could see you as a mock turtleneck guy.
No, I didn't like the. You know what I mean?
I could see you as wearing a black mock. Did you really just get a call? What is it?
No, that's Frankie.
Oh, yeah. Frankie wished me good luck today, and I was like, "Oh, he's going to be surprised when he sees me on the show."
Everyone clearly he doesn't know we're having one.
Oh yeah,
because he called me. But yeah, so let's talk about it, dude. Let's talk about it.
Dude, it was just your classic, typical, tough Grand Lake bite. Major tournaments 4 weeks in a row. 7 inches to 8 inches of rain. Change the color of the water. Conditions in practice were nothing like the tournament.
Question.
Yeah.
How much higher did the water get? What was
like
the
a foot?
level?
Not. It was
that's not bad.
they keep it at 742. It went up to like 742.8, 742.9. Yeah, it wasn't bad. Like, it wasn't blown out at all. I don't know what was like upriver and stuff, but it wasn't. So I literally just practiced on Saturday and then parked it on Sunday, Monday, and then Tuesday was an off day. I kind of knew what I was going to do. I was going to power fish, start out with a top water, throw a jig. I had a little bit of a minnow deal where I thought I could catch a limit. The water should have been in the 50s. It was like mid to upper 60s when we started. It got down to like 65. Had a little color. Shad were everywhere. So it was just tough. Like, you knew that like a good bite would go a long way. So I just fished with a real open mind. We had 250 boats out there. And the first morning, I start on a bank. I wasn't even sure where I was going to start. It just felt right. Like, you ever have those days where you're just like calm and you're just like, it'll happen. And I start on a bank. I'm throwing a buzzer. Nothing. And I come to a dock, and I flip one side of it, nothing. And I get around to the back side of the dock. And mind you, like, it's been taken to top 5, these local tournaments. It's been taken 13, 14 pounds to win. It's been like 17, 18 Andy Littlejohn went with, and Mike, I think, with like 19 something last week or 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
But it's been like really tough. But if you look at, all the public information of the guys holding up the fish, it's like 4 decent ones and a big one, right?
Right.
So I'm 20 minutes into the morning, and I get around on the back side of this dock, and there's like metal wire cables, like just the kind that will shred your stuff. And I get up to it, and I can't skip under the cables because
too close.
Well, the cables are too close to the water. They're only like an inch and a half above the water. So there's like, I'll draw a diagram here.
Uh-oh. Save that diagram, Matt.
Yeah. Oh God. Now I'm.
Do you feel the pressure, Matt? Do you feel the pressure now?
Yes. And then you want to do it.
I want to see every strand of that 8 wrapped cable. And I want to see the rusty filaments that are breaking off where they connect to the eye bolt.
Okay.
Everybody that fishes cable docks knows that problem. Here we go. We're going to have to sign you up. The silence is golden.
All right. Let's see if I can do this.
Tip it. You got it. Right there. It's perfect.
Here's the bank that I've labeled bank.
Other side.
Son of a gun. You're really good at this, Frank. So this is the bank. There's the walkway.
Right.
There's like a little float right here that's then attached to the dock, right?
Oh, perfect.
So I'd ease my boat behind the dock like that. This is the very first one I fish in the morning. You see these dots right here?
Other side. There you go.
These are cables that go right to the walkway. Actually, I actually cast right there. This line should be right there. Anyway, so I flip over it, 20-pound sunline on a jig, and I actually Scout's honor scissor flip it, because I'm putting it right in that dark spot, even though it's first thing in the morning. So I have line out like this,
right,
like that, straight up scissor flip, old school. Like, I mean, Denny Brower would have had that thing on repeat in a dark room for 3 hours. That's how badass it was. And I put it right back in there, and I lift up on it, and it's just heavy. Never felt the bite, nothing. But it does that thing where it just kind of moves a little bit, like where it's a fish, and it's a big fish, and it's a bass, and you're super screwed because you put it where you weren't supposed to get it out. And it's the first bite in the morning. I know right off the bat, this is my freaking derby. And I crack it, and it's, I'm 7 feet away from it, and I boom, not like a Jose Canseco swing, just one of those where you reel into it and you stick, like you've got it.
It's solid.
And it comes up, and it does, like, when it comes up, it comes straight up, and it does one of those where you just see the mouth, and I can see my jig just stuck, like good stuck. But I've got these damn cables. And I knew, like, if it goes down and swims in any direction,
your cable,
it's going to break me off. So I got it up, like, right off the hopper. It's up. And I knew my best chance. So I just grab my rod and I boat flip it. And it comes out, and it does the whole Bassmaster jump, like, as it's in the midair, and it lands in the bottom of the boat. And I go, I'll say it. I said, F yeah. But I said it extremely loud, like, and then I was like, oh, like I was jacked. And I immediately, pop the hook out, toss it in the box, and tell my he hadn't practiced. I was like, dude, that's massive. That gives me so much freedom. So I was like, dude, it might be this section of the lake. So then I go like an hour and a half without any bites, all jig, all top water, everything. I'm like, okay, I said, I cannot burn this fish, right?
Right.
Like I can't have a
One.
4.5 pounder that I thought was a 4.5 pounder at the time. I said, I just have to fill out a limit with it. So one of the things that I had done, because it was a 3-day tournament, was on the 1 day of practice, I was up and I was skipping some docks. And when I went out, I idled over a brush pile. So I stopped and marked it, and I turned around. I caught a 2.5 pound spotted bass off of it. Well, then as I like looked around, I found like a line of brush piles, like real nice brush piles in 7 to 9 foot. Every single one of them had keeper fish on it.
Oh no.
So I told my boater, you know, it's like 10 o'clock. I was like, hey, I said, I need to go fill out a limit. I've only got this one big one. So I went, I minnowed up a couple, I drop shotted some, I jerk baited some. I could tell it wasn't that good, but now I know I've got 12.5 pounds, 13 pounds, and I've got all day. I had a 4:45 check-in and as I ran around, I realized, God, like it's not fishing well at all. The lake is not fishing well at all. I ended up like checking some other limit stuff. Then I went down lake, and I knew, because I caught that fish out of like 2 foot. My minnow fish were out of 8 foot. And then I caught a 2.5 pounder at 3 o'clock out of a crappie brush pile in 23 foot of water. And I caught them in all different sections of the lake. I caught them the main lake mid. I caught them Drowning Creek. I caught them Duck Creek, and I caught them down by the dam, which is the whole lake. And I caught them on jigs, a variety of different, like it wasn't a great pattern. So when I came in, I had 14. I knew I had 14, but it was one of those where I was conflicted, because I wouldn't say it was better on paper than it was in actuality, because in order to get that big bite, like there weren't many guys there was no one that's been coming in with like 5 3.5 pounders. It's always been ahead, but I knew like kind of depended on that big bite. So on the second day, I was 10th out of 100 or 250. And on the second day,
that's solid.
You know, I started in that first hour, I hit all my big fish stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
New stuff, like I've hit different section of the lake, different style, because I wasn't going to go beat my head against the wall. Because I mean, I flipped for 5 hours without a bite, and by the time you really dissect a stretch, it's 45 minutes, an hour later.
Right, it's not a fast.
So I was like, well, I'll just hit new stretches. And anyway, long story short, I said, well, I need to go catch a limit. I said, then I'm just one bite away from making sure I make it. So I went and I caught a limit in like 30 minutes that weighed 7 pounds. And I was like, well, crap. I thought if I caught a limit, it'd weigh 9, 10 pounds.
Right.
But I'm putting them on the scales. Like I had a spotted bass. I was like 120. I'm like, this isn't good. So I ran to my other limit stuff, and I spent an hour, and I culled twice. So I got up to 8.1, and I knew I had 8 pounds. And I culled like a 135 with like a 150. And I was just disgusted with myself.
Well,
because I'm fishing for a top 3. I'm trying to make the Bassmaster Classic and the Elite Series. Mm-hmm. I'm in the top 10. The hell am I doing wasting an hour out of my day culling a 130 for a 150? Like that, where does that get me? That was my mentality at the time on day 2. So I said,
right, which kind of makes sense. You know, makes sense based on what you were catching.
So then I picked it up and I fished. I went and I checked some shallow rock real quick that I'd caught him on in practice. Nothing. I went and I flipped 5 more stretches of docks in 5 different sections of the lake. I never got a bite. I came in, I had 8 pounds, 1 ounce. I dropped to 24th. I missed the final day cut by 13 ounces. 13.
So, okay. So question. So knowing what you know now, because hindsight's always 20/20, what would you have done differently?
I literally told my co-angler this on day 2. I said, if I sit here and get up to 9 pounds, I'm going to say, I can't believe I freaking put myself in such a hole, because there's no way I wouldn't have gotten a couple good bites flipping. And if I flip and don't get bit, I'm going to say I should have sat here and called ounces to make sure that I make the final day. I said, so it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't. And I said, but the upside of the power fishing, the top water, the jig, the big crankbait, is way higher. Like the upside is way more than the upside of the culling for ounces.
Correct.
So what I gave up was, I'm not saying a sure thing, but I mean, I probably caught, if I had sat there for another 4 hours, I would have been up to 9-10 pounds. It's just the nature of the beast there. But the upside of going for it and coming in with another 12 or 13 to put me in the top 5, to me, was worth the risk of culling for ounces, because at the time I didn't know that the weights were so bad. I thought I needed 10 pounds to make day 2. I thought 24 pounds would make the final day 3.
Gotcha.
So I was like, that's 1 3-pounder with what I had right there.
Right. So
and I never got the bite. So it is what it is, and I missed it. And
yeah, but here's the deal. That's that's fishing to win. Okay. That's fishing to win. You make the choice to go for the bigger bite. You knew you were getting the bigger bite doing the other stuff, just not as many, but you already had the limit. So one more good bite puts you where you want to be. You follow me?
That's 4-pounder gives me 11.5, 12 pounds again. And then, 1 4-pound bite. But there were also 30, 40 guys that were in that position too. I mean, I had the second biggest bass of the tournament. There was a 6-pounder.
You're both flipping a 6 around cables.
Yeah, over 2 cables. So I don't know. Like I struggle between like, here's why I don't say that it was just dumb luck. I knew what the possibilities were. I put myself in that position. I had everything dialed in, and I knew going into it that it would come down to 1 bite a day.
Well, you knew I mean, you knew what the fishery was giving up. You knew that guys weren't coming in with, a solid limit of all 3.5 pounds.
Now, I legit thought I had a 4. I put it in as 4.8. I thought it was a 4.8. And when I started culling on day 1, I put it on the scales. And that was when I was like, oh my God.
Oh my
and it
God.
said 566 on my scales. And that's when I was like, okay, now we're already doing something. But,
right.
The luck part of it was that, it was a 510 on the bass scales and not a 310 or a 410, all of which I would have been very happy. Like, I couldn't control the fact that was
a 6-pounder
monstrosity for what's going on this time of the year at Grand.
Right.
Like that was the luck, but the luck was not, why I knew how I had to get that fish out of there as quickly as possible with no hesitation was because in 2018, I think 2019, I was in a fall tournament on Grand Lake flipping a jig, and there were cables right on the water, and I flipped over a cable, but my boat was 10 feet away from the cable.
Oh, so you had a friction lock on the cable.
A 5-pounder ate it, came up and jumped, and broke me off in the cable. And without having that happen, I knew that I needed to have my boat closer to the cable so it wasn't touching it. And as soon as that fish comes up, it needs to get out of there. So I had beefier line, a heavier rod, and did not make the cast until I was in position. So I learned from that. Like that cost me a top 10 in that Toyota.
Yeah. So the cable drama is great because one time on Norman, I skipped underneath one of the cables and I got the fish and I get them and it jumps over the cable. And that had me wrapped around the cable and I broke them off because those cables they're like sandpaper. They're so rusty.
Yep.
Most of them. It's no line's going to survive that. I mean, It's just not. So you did the right play there.
It had been a long time since I had fished, a cable tournament. So I literally went to some fisheries just to practice that. Like I made sure I had, and the other thing that I did was I had 3 identical setups that were
Perfect.
the exact same jig, the exact same line, everything. So what's that?
What line were you using?
20-pound shooter, sunline shooter. But as soon as I had a little bit of abrasion or I made a bad cast or I hit a cable with one, I would just pick up the other rod.
Yeah,
And then as
that's
soon as that one was messed up, or if I got hung, or if the thing opened, I'd pick up the other one, because you have to set the hook with conviction on those fish.
Yeah, there's no question about it.
But
And you have to control them.
yeah,
Well,
I
that's
don't
kind
know.
of cool.
It was a tough pill to swallow, dude. It's like the fourth time in the last 6 years that I've been right on the verge there of either a classic or the Elite Series.
Yeah, but you put yourself there 4 times. So the law of averages are next time you're probably going to make that cut. You know what I mean? You're probably going to
I might go 4 more times. Like I understand it's 100%. It's first world problems. It's not life ending. It is life changing when that happens. I'd really like to make it. But I also feel like, I put so much into this just on a daily, just everything in the fishing industry.
Yeah, I mean,
sometimes you have to feel that. You have to feel that bitter disappointment to strive for you to become better and refocus on your next goal.
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, listen, it's not a failure. It's just on the way to success. I mean, you can't, you know what I mean? I mean, that's like every bad tournament that I ever put up motivated me for the next event.
Well, I have a lot of motivation then.
Well, but we all do, Matt. It's tournament fishing. I mean, Jesus Christ.
But you know what? I'm very happy with my year, Frank. I'm not very happy with it. I had a lot of high moments of the year. A top 25, the Bass Nation National Championship. Like, I have to remember that because I get down on myself really bad, Frank.
You got to stop that.
I top 5 the regional at Champlain. I top 10 an Open this year. I won the St. Jude out of Wabasha with Bartuzek this year. Like, I had a
yeah, dude, you can't beat yourself.
I had a decent year. Like, I put myself in some good positions.
You cannot beat yourself up over that. That's bad energy. That's a waste of energy.
But I feel like you have to let yourself be a little for a while after.
Yeah, you got to take the kick in the gut. I mean, you got to take the kick in the gut because that's what gets you to the next hump, gets you over the next bump. But you can't be that. You can't be hard on yourself like that. You can be hard on yourself to learn a lesson, but it's not the be all to end all.
Yeah, I'm not saying. I mean, this was a tournament that it was exactly like I expected. The weights were identical. The way the guys are at the top are exactly how I expected it to go down. The guys that are at the top are the exact guys that I expected it to be. Like, it's on a lake that is really tough that I'm super familiar with, that I took a risk to qualify. That's,
Well, let me ask you a question. Is this time of year, is the lake always tough, or was it the weather system?
It's always tough.
Okay.
There's always like a 2 or 3 week period, and it varies on whether it's the end of October, the beginning of November. It's all a weather deal until it gets really cold. Those gizzards get up there. They get on that top water a lot better. They become more predictable. I mean, it was, 66, 67 degree water temps. So that's not good. Yeah. They needs to be like upper 50s.
Gotcha. Okay. All right.
Like so frosty, gloves and hat, like on the old buzzer with,
Yeah, like
then it gets. Then it gets good. It was just really bad right now for everybody. I mean, so you saw there's Will Davis Jr. is looking for a 3-peat. He's the only guy who's gone 14-14.
Wow.
I mean, dude, 250 boats, and it took a little over. It took 11.5 pounds a day to make the top 20.
Yeah,
that ain't good.
No, that's tough. So the weather really didn't affect the toughness of the fishing.
Yeah, it definitely changed it. It made it a lot tougher. Like Saturday, I could go around and catch 2 2.25 pounders pretty much at will. I mean, I stopped catching them, but I probably had 20 fish between 2 and 2 3/4 pounds on Saturday. Shook 8 or 9 off on a jig, had some good topwater blow ups. Like, I mean, I literally could go around and be like, all right, I should be able to catch 11 to 12 pounds in an hour.
Dang.
Yeah.
That's
but
great.
and that totally changed. And the areas where I could catch them, where I caught the limit, I mean, they turned into like 14 inchers.
Yeah.
And they were like, they weren't fish that like were resident one-offs. They were schooling, kind of moving around. The other thing that really wild to me is I'd heard they put these hybrid stripers in the lake.
Mm-hmm.
And, this happened 4 or 5 years ago. DNR said, I think it was for guiding and to help the lake. And there's a ton of bait in there. But I'd never caught one and never seen them. And I talked to some guys that were like, oh my God, it was crazy. It was nuts. I saw them come up. I caught them every cast. And I was like, whatever. So I go back to this area that I'd had them schooling and practice the first day. There's nothing there. Bait's gone. Everything's nothing. I said, I got to keep it honest. So the second day I go back there and it's just chaos. There's bass up on top. There's white bass. And I look out over 40 feet of water and I see 500 or 600 individual balls on live scope, like 20 feet down, like moving, like just a sea. I was like, I've never seen that before. Like I've never seen never seen it before. Like black out a live scope screen, like top to bottom, black it out.
Was it bait or was it hybrids?
So I take a 6-inch minnow and I toss it over there, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, it no sooner hits the water than probably about 200 of them immediately go to it. And the next thing I know, like probably a 7 to 10 pound hybrid. Like, I mean, a big, giant hybrid.
I think I got one of those in here.
Yeah. I want to go back and catch them. Like,
No,
I would
no
love
kidding.
to stuff the live well with those things. Are delicious, and I'm low on fish meat now. The other thing that I found on Saturday in practice was I found a small drop, and yeah, that's exactly what it looked like. Identical to that. That's exactly what it looked like.
Dude, you were telling me to cook them on the half shell. I want to go out and catch them now.
Yeah,
and try
you have to. And so here's the other thing I was able to do. I took a big minnow and there's like a little drop, just a little drop. And you could see just hundreds of them stacked up like cordwood. Like, doom, 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 doom. And it just goes donk, dong, 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 dong. Every cast, 5 to 10 pound blue cats on a minnow.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, you could watch them, like you get it down there and shake it and you could watch them just rock it up and eat it.
What a blast, man.
Yeah. I would love to go back out there and do that.
What a blast.
Yeah.
I did that on
probably
Kentucky.
keep a couple spotted bass just out of spite.
I did that on Kentucky Lake with those blue cats.
Yeah.
Me and my buddy Troy were out there and we found them on a 45-degree bank. Exactly the same thing that you said. Yep. Only we had to do it with 2D because back then there was no side imaging or none of it.
I'm not sure that's how you spell striper, but
that
we'll harvest them if necessary.
If necessary.
It was like I told my co-angler MJ, said when other species are chewing like that, sometimes y'all are like, what the hell are we doing bass fishing? I told my co on day 2, he's from Maryland. It's like, dude, I wish we were fun fishing. I said, you'd be up here right next to me. I said, and we would both just be fighting fish for the next hour and a half.
That is so fun, dude. I mean, that is I was seriously going to go back to the lake where I got all on those big ones, big hybrids, because they are fun, dude.
Yeah. All you have to do is you take them, you scrub them with a brush beforehand to get kind of the slime off of the scales. Then you
leave the scales on them.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on the half shell. Then you fillet them. Then you just cut the line out of the pin bone line. And then you go over the rib cage, and then you treat it just like a redfish.
So you're cooking it scales down on the grill.
Yeah, I'm just putting the scales directly on the grill, and I'm seasoning and putting
but you
butter
baste it as you cook it,
and baste it as you cook it. Yep.
But right on the grill, not in aluminum foil.
Correct. Correct. Yep.
All right. I'm gonna do that. I might have to go try it.
Speaking of which, my parents actually went to the tournament. It was good to see them. Hadn't seen them in a while. And they're on their way down to Shawnee to see the house. I haven't seen the house since like 2.5, 3 years. So I got some steaks on the grill or on the smoker right now. And then I'm going to throw them I'm going to vacuum seal them with some rosemary, some thyme, some garlic butter, and a little bit of
perfect.
a little bit of God, my brain is so fried, dude. What is that called? Marinade. And then I'll sous vide them at 120 for a couple hours. Then I'll season them up. I found when I'm depressed, when I'm in full-blown depression, my steak cooking just gets extreme. Like I'll spend 2.5 days on a steak, a single steak. Like that's how I recover from disappointing moments in my life.
That's because you focus intently on it. Yeah. That's
like literally like it was therapeutic going in and getting a couple fillets and ribeyes today.
Yeah, that's what this does for me.
Yeah.
Same thing. I'll be down there doing that, going, oh,
dude, when you come down this winter, we have to jump in a freaking jackpot together. A winter jackpot. Like you have to be here during a Saturday or Sunday and we'll go fish a derby.
Down.
And we'll run a GoPro the whole time.
Yeah, I'm down. It'll be good. It'll be fun.
All right. Bonus BTL. We'll be back. So I've got a crazy week next week, folks. Matt Steffen comes in on Tuesday. We're going to do 4 days of the Master Angler Quest. We're going to try to catch a 10-pound largemouth. We're going to try to do a striper, like a 30-pound striper, a 2-pound crappie. I think we've got like 6 species that we're going to target. It's going to be on the verge of either really sucking and being embarrassing, or we're going to catch a couple of them.
Perfect. So we're live on Thursday, or we're not?
That's what I'm saying. We're going to probably do. We're going to have to switch our time up on Thursday because Thursday's like a fishing day for us.
Okay, so a time swap.
Yeah.
And that's the 14th, right?
Correct. I don't know exactly what time it is yet. We should be doing. I will do a BTL on Monday and Tuesday at a regular time, but we're gonna do morning or we're gonna do evening BTLs probably Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, and Friday night. A smorgasbord. Plus, I got an email from AFCO. I can't remember what we're doing. It's all on them. They were like, "Hey, we want to run a promo this week," and I was like, "That's a perfect week to run a promo because." Yeah. We're doing all these different shows. You know Matt Steffen at all?
Not one-on-one.
You guys would that would be an interesting that might actually work. We might do that. I might bring you in with Matt Steffen.
Yeah, whatever. I'm down.
Sean says I can just picture Matt P beating some meat all frustrated. It's not. I do not tenderize it. The only key is you have to stick it with a fork occasionally to let it go throughout let the juices go 100%. In. So
that's good, man. Now I want to go catch one of them big giant bastards and do them on the grill.
Like all I had to do, like why you do all that? You put all that. Why like just 1 2.5 pounder? Like 1 2.5 pounder. Like why couldn't just 1 2.5 pounder? I weighed in a 138 spotted bass. Just 1 2.5 pounder, and I'm out there fishing today, and I can't drop lower than 20. And I said, hey, I did all I could do. Throw a glide, a plop, a jig, and see what happens. Just 1 2.5. It's 13 ounces. Like, what the hell, Frank? Like, why am I sitting here right now? Like, it's just like, what's the point of like, what is is there any justice in this?
There's justice.
I'm not saying it was bad. I'm just saying, like, really?
You know, you're allowed to go through this right now, so I'm going to let you. But if you're dwelling on
I don't want it to come across as like bitching because I'm not.
You're not. But that's always how it is on a close event. You're like, dang. And you're allowed to feel that way because you're allowed to feel that way because it was very important to you. It means a lot. You know what I'm saying? So you feel that way, but in a week and a half, if you're still beating yourself up over it, then I got to come down there and give you a quick smack.
All right, this has been another edition today for with the man Frank SCALISH on a Friday special edition. Stay tuned to our social medias. We'll let everybody know, or we might just go live. We still have good group of people that jumped on a Friday here. If you're listening to this and you want to turn your notifications on, subscribe on YouTube and turn your notifications on. That way, when a show is scheduled, when a show is posted, you know it goes live and don't miss it. But yeah, big AFCA giveaways next week, special time, special place, and glad we were able to get something in this week. And you got anything else to add?
Nah, just remember, check out LureNet. All the sales and specials are coming up. Sign up for the newsletter so you'll get your notifications prior. And 100, 200 bandits in khaki Monday.
See ya later.